All right, my friends, get out your starters, activate them because it is sourdough season. Right when it gets cold out, there's some type of biological trigger in my head that just starts pumping out bread. And I love it. It's something I look forward to every winter, just to get into bread mode. And of course, I've put out many videos over the years on sourdough bread on this channel, and lots of you have been inspired and become excellent bakers, which is a lifelong skill that will never go away. But recently, from making bread, I've realized over those years, as sourdough has gotten more popular into the mainstream, there are companies and products that have emerged to help really make that pro-level baker equipment accessible for the home cook. And I thought it'd be pretty boring to just take you through each product one by one. So instead, I'm gonna take you through my personal process of bread making. And as these products come up in the process, I'm gonna highlight each of their benefits so you can actually see them in action. And up first, we have to activate our sourdough starter. And I'm generally making bread once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks. So I just keep my non-active starter in the refrigerator to just slow that yeast down so it doesn't die out. And then I'll take it from the fridge and I find one good feeding and it is ready to make really good sourdough bread. So I'll take out my baking scale, which is an essential tool, but it didn't make my list because it's not that exciting. Most of you probably know about scales at this point. And I'm using whole wheat bread flour to feed my starter. I'll measure out 100 grams of the flour and 100 grams of water. And now we come to my first tool in the list. So generally people have their own DIY way to mix up their sourdough starter. Comment in with yours below. Mine is a chopstick for a few reasons. Number one is it's very effective at mixing up a small batch like this without any mess. But what's even more important is once your starter is mixed, you can use it to easily scrape down the sides of your jar or vessel, almost like you're wiping a window, which is important because you need that clear vision through to see what's happening during the fermentation and rising process. And it's also super easy to clean, especially if you have a more polished one like this. Now I'll let my starter activate at room temperature. This is gonna take different times depending on how active your starter is, how warm or cold your house is. Mine took around 5 hours, and you can see here it's doubled, nearly tripled in size. And now it's time to create the dough. I'm using a mix of a few flours that I'll weigh out, ultimately getting to 1,000 grams of total flour, which will make baking percentages super easy to calculate, but also it's gonna give us two perfectly sized, I would say medium to large loaves. I'll start with 600 grams of all-purpose flour, 200 grams of whole wheat bread flour, 100 grams of spelt flour, and 100 grams of rye flour. Of course, this is the fun of sourdough bread, is creating your own mix of flours. Maybe you even have a mill, which is another great tool, not on this list because I'm not using it, but milling has made appearances in past videos. I have a whole section on it in my course, but we're keeping it nice and easy here today. On top of that flour, I'm gonna add 20 grams of salt at 2%, and then I'll add around 780 grams of water, which is gonna be around 80% hydration dough once my starter is mixed, which is the next ingredient. Now that I've got my activated starter, I will add 200 grams of this right to the dough. Now, what is the best way to mix your sourdough? Well, you could use a fancy mixer like this, Ankersham or KitchenAid, but I find that with sourdough, the best way is by hand. Let's call it a helpful hand, which brings me into my next tool, the Danish dough whisk. A lot of people don't know about these things, but they are incredible because they are perfectly crafted to do the initial mixing of a wet dough, like most sourdoughs. With sourdough, this first mix has one job. It's just hydrating the flour with the water. Just a very rough mix until you get a shaggy mass like this. And you can see the specialized whisk does a great job mixing it up. It can clean off the sides of the bowl really well. And again, just like the chopstick, they are very easy to clean up, which is a huge bonus. And anyone who has mixed sourdough bread with their hands knows how much of a show it can be. So I'll hit this rough mixed dough with a wet cloth and I'll let that rest for about 30 minutes to start that gluten bonding. Now, before we move on, coming in at the 3 spot is a tool that you might not expect. Bag clips. Yes, sturdy ass bag clips. Why? Because when you're making sourdough bread, you can see right here, I've got 4 bags of flours because I'm making a mix. And flour is the messiest thing you can have in your pantry. So having a sturdy bag clip like this, something with some power to it, and they make high quality ones now. It's a real game changer because it just keeps everything nice and tidy, and when you're transferring things around, you can assure that you're not gonna have have flour flying all over the place. Of course, you can use these for any pantry item, but in general, you're gonna have a much tidier and organized pantry, which is great for making sourdough bread. All right, now after 30 minutes has passed, we have to get our dough out of this bowl. And how are we gonna do it? Well, with a very special tool. A lot of you know about this, I hope. These are called dough scrapers. Not to be confused with the bench scraper. These are two different tools that have their own specific uses with some overlap, which we'll get into later. For now, we are gonna focus on the dough scraper, which is gonna do exactly what it says it's gonna do. Scrape dough, specifically out of a bowl because of this perfectly rounded edge that can conform to your bowl. So you can see here, I am getting a perfect scraping of this dough out of the bowl, leaving barely any wet dough behind. And then once that dough is out on the surface, multi-purpose tool, we flip it over to the flat side, and I can use this side in tandem with my hand. That's the goal. When you're dealing with sourdough bread, these dough scrapers or bench scrapers, they're gonna be your best friend. You gotta rely on these to make your hand more non-stick, or you're gonna run into a big mess. It's where all beginner bakers start freaking out. If things are getting sticky on you, rely more on this thing right here. And I'm doing some slap and folds here. I'm really just starting that stretching process to get those gluten bonds activated. And once I've done that for about 2 or 3 minutes, the damp towel goes over the bread again. I let that sit for another 30 minutes, and I repeat this process around 2 or 3 times in 30-minute intervals. And by the 3rd or 4th stretch and fold, you can see how much nicer this dough is. And you can see I switched over to the bench scraper here. It's really preference on which one you want to use to kind of help you out in this process. But after a few intervals of this, I am feeling very good about this dough, and we're ready to enter into bulk fermentation. Which brings me into the next tool, my fermenting vessel. What I use are these specific heavy-duty plastic bins from Cambro is the brand. These bins have changed my life. You see them a lot in the restaurant world, but you will find a use for them in your house. Trust me, if it's not for sourdough, there's many other uses. I store compost in there, lettuce leaves, different stocks and broths that I make. But the reason they are so good for sourdough bread fermentation is because you can actually measure the volume of change. In the past, I would put my sourdough in a bowl and let it rise, which is fine, but bulk fermentation can take hours depending on your room temperature. Or if you're cold fermenting in the fridge, it could be 24 hours. So it's so much easier to just pop it in here, and rather than just trusting that it's done fermenting, you can see right here, this took, I would say, 7 or 8 hours, and I can see that it's just about doubled in size. So we are ready to go. But before we move on, let's talk about another tool that I actually created, printing it out right now. So these right here are my sourdough checklist, baking checklists. And they work like schedules to fit sourdough bread making into your lifestyle. Because sourdough bread is a really, really long extended process, 1 full day to 3 days, but the time you're actually spending making bread is not that long. So I created 5 different checklists for different lifestyles. And the goal here is to give you those rough timings of each step so you can fit sourdough bread making around the rest of your life. So click above or down below in the description. These are completely free. Thousands of people have used them with a lot of success. So I've got my dough here, it's fermented. I'll just flip it out of the vessel. And at this point, it should smell a little bit tangy. That's why it's called sourdough. And I'm gonna switch over to my bench scraper because it has that sharp side. I can use that to make a nice clean slice to create 2 doughs for 2 loaves. And then I'm gonna give a rough shaping just to get a general form for both of those doughs. And I'll let those bench rest for another 20 minutes. And then I'll come back and we will do our final shaping. Now comes our next tool. We've got shaped loaves. We gotta hold that form. So we need a proofing basket. And I have them all over my kitchen. These are the ones I've always used. These are just cloth lined bannetons right here, which are great. I have no problem with these. But there's a new player in town and he's changed the game. These are from Rose Hill Sourdough, and you can see it. They are a little bit unique. You see the style in some traditional European bakeries, and they're actually made out of sustainable wood pulp. And that does something unique. When you actually put the dough into the proofing basket, the wood is actually gonna absorb moisture from the outside of the dough. And because there's less moisture on the outside of your dough, you're gonna get a crispier crust when it's baked off. These have just been baked with in their they're slightly moist and they just dry out naturally over time. Not to mention, these things are just built so sturdy, and I find that they're a little bit more non-stick when floured correctly compared to the cloth ones. So once the dough's in there, I'll just go around the outside, sprinkling on flour just to make sure that there's no sticking. I'll pop a damp towel on these and throw those in the fridge to overnight proof. All right, next morning, and we are ready to bake. But first, we have to talk about a very essential tool, which is the Dutch oven. Now, the reason bakers need a Dutch oven is because in traditional bakeries, you have steam ovens, which inject steam into the oven, creating the perfect environment for a good rise and great coloration. Now, we don't have that in a regular oven. So by using a Dutch oven, as the bread rises, we can trap in that steam and get pretty much the same exact results as a bakery. Now, this is the fanciest one and most expensive Dutch oven on the market, specifically for bread baking, which is from Challenger, and it hit the market a few years ago. This thing is a beast. If you're fully dedicated to baking for like the rest of your life, like myself, it could be worth it. The main benefit being it has a ton of surface area, so if you bake bigger loaves or you do long rolls like a baguette, great option right here. But because it's bigger, it's a little harder to handle, and it also takes more time to preheat. And then you have this Dutch oven from Lodge, which is not built for baking, but it gets the job done. It's the same thing, just smaller basically. And much cheaper, of course. So if you're baking smaller loaves, great option here. And one note is that you want to avoid using enamel coated Dutch ovens like this. This enamel coating is not built to really withstand super high temperatures that we need for bread baking, and you'll destroy it. So I'm gonna use this Lodge for the demo, and I'm gonna get that preheating at 500 degrees for about 30 minutes in the oven. Now, the next tool is another great innovation from Rose Hill Sourdough, which is the bread mat. In the past, when I've transferred my bread to the Dutch oven, I've always used parchment paper, which has worked, but it burns and it rips and you gotta throw it away, which is the purpose of this thing. It's silicone, it's heavy duty, and it has one job, which is just transferring your bread over to the Dutch oven. And this is not a sponsored video, but I am friends with Mike, the founder and creator of Rose Hill products, both of these. And he's offering all of you 5% off either of these products. Just click the link below, use code word MikeG. You won't regret it, trust me. So I get the bread transferred over to the mat, and that brings up my next essential tool, which is a pastry brush. Specifically this one right here. Like, pastry brushes come in different forms, but this one's heavy duty and really does a good job at excavating that flour off the top of your sourdough, because we always want to make sure there's enough flour that your dough doesn't stick to your proofing basket and ruin like 20 hours of work, but we don't want to bake it with this much flour. You want to get off all that excess flour before moving on to scoring. And for scoring, I just use these bread raisers right here. I will say there's a lot of innovation with the scoring lames or lames or whatever they're called over the last few years, but they didn't make the list because I don't use those. I prefer to just do it by hand. I find that I have more control over the razor. And after the design is done, it goes in the Dutch oven, baking off at 500 degrees Fahrenheit for 20 minutes. And then after the 20 minutes, you take the lid off the Dutch oven. I turn it down to 450 degrees and pop it back in the oven for around another 20 to 25 minutes, depending on how dark and caramelized you like your sourdough bread. Yes, perfect sourdough. A slice of that. And one more thing, because it is a new year, and this might just be the year you take your sourdough bread to the next level, I've got a very special deal on my sourdough course, Sourdough U, below in the description. We covered a lot in this video, but if you're looking to really go deep, we're talking the science of bread, walking you through the entire bread making process and troubleshooting all of your mistakes as well, which is just as important when you're starting off. Check that out, and you will be making bread just like this. Oh my God, the softness, the softness. Oil on there. Hey. Oh my God. I think one of the greatest things about sourdough is I get just as much joy making bread as I did 6, 7 years ago when I started. Bread made the traditional way like this has been keeping civilizations alive for thousands of years. And let's keep it going, my friends.